What's going on, everyone? So I actually never made a full tutorial on how to get amazing battery life on your iPhone, iPad, whatever, anything that's running iOS 12. And the reason I never did it was because me personally, I'm always around a charger, and I really don't need to have amazing battery life because I'm always around a charger. Exactly. So for all those people who aren't always around a charger like me, I figured, why is this introduction so long? Everybody needs better battery life, whatever. The first thing I'm going to say is there's some preferences. This will pretty much work on every iPhone. I have some other iPhones I'm also going to do all these little tips and tricks with, but I'm going to say that this will kind of limit some functionality of your phone. So if you're willing to give up a little bit of functionality to gain better battery life, that's something you're going to have to ask yourself and maybe ask your minister or something, I don't know. The first thing I want to tell you is actually fully turning off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Now that might be a given. You're like, of course, whatever. Now some people do say Wi-Fi and Bluetooth don't even suck up that much battery life, but for all those people who are out there, they might want it. So if you go into the control center, you don't actually fully turn off Bluetooth and Wi-Fi there. And I made a big deal about this before. Apple still hasn't taken it out, so it's really annoying. But luckily with Siri shortcuts, you are actually able to fully turn it off. So if you actually go into your widgets, scroll all the way down to Siri shortcuts, you add the shortcut. You can see that I actually have a Bluetooth and Wi-Fi toggle here. So this will actually fully turn off the Wi-Fi. As you can see, I turn it off. You can turn it back on if you actually you can't really turn it on if you click it. But you can literally just go down into the control center and actually turn it back on. I'll leave those little links to actually download those in the description below if you actually want to download these Siri shortcuts. Just make sure you're running on iOS 12 and you will be able to fully turn that off. So that's a really, really cool thing. That's actually one of the first widgets I ever downloaded. Now another thing is actually within settings and then sounds and haptics. So pretty much turning off all these vibrations will overall prolong your battery life. So vibrate on ring, vibrate on silent, things like that will actually help save battery life. But also little tiny things like system haptics, that little thing with right there where it says play haptics for system controls and interactions, things like that, that pretty much sucks up a little battery life every time it uses the vibration motor. Again, it might be minimal, but if you're using your phone a lot throughout the day, things like that will actually enable you to kind of prolong the battery life of your phone. Now this next one is a huge one, okay? So within settings, if you go into notifications, I want you to go through every single one of these apps and figure out which one of these do you not use and pretty much you don't need the notifications of. So for example, with Agario, I don't even remember I had this game. For most of these, notifications will pretty much already be on. So what you want to do, like I said, with Agario, go into it and you want to disable the notifications. So this will make sure that in the background, it won't necessarily push notifications to your device. And pretty much just imagine like this, every single one of these that you turn off will ultimately prolong the battery life just a little bit more. And I've said prolong so many times. So for example, with music, if you just click it, you'll see a bunch of things like this. If you just go up here and click don't allow notifications, every single time you do that with every single one of these devices, it'll stop that specific device from being able to go into the background and push the notifications to you. So that will actually help you increase your battery life even more. So just go through and figure out which one of these you don't use or which one of these you don't even need notifications for and just delete them from there. So this next one you can actually find within settings, then general, then background app refresh. And you want to enable it because this will allow you to get the apps in the background, like the messages and Snapchats and stuff. But what you want to do is figure out which one of these you don't want going into the background. Same thing as the notifications, but this thing will stop it from basically sucking up battery life and data in the background. So for example, with Amazon, what if you don't want your Amazon to just randomly be able to get data and stuff in the background? It's not going to steal data or anything like that, but in the background, it's just going to refresh it and figure out which data and all this other stuff needs to be refreshed. So let's say you don't need Amazon, just turn it off. That'll allow that to not even use it in the background. And you can do that with every single one of these. Facebook is a huge one. I'm going to turn that off. That app sucks up so much data and battery, it's crazy. So I'm going to turn that off. I don't even use Facebook anymore. I don't even know why it's on. Oh, because I use those speed tests, that's why. And just pretty much do that with every single one of these apps. I don't need it for Goat. I don't need it. I need it for Gmail. See, Gmail is a classic case because that's where my emails come from. So I want to be able to get notifications and everything with those. So I would pretty much just go through the same ones that you turned off for notifications. I would recommend just turning off for background app refresh as well. And that will ultimately increase the battery life as well. But if you really want to go ham, you can just go ahead and turn off background app refresh altogether. I probably would not recommend it because this will stop a lot of apps in the background from refreshing. But if you want to, go ahead and do it. I mean, that's the worst that can happen is you'll miss a couple notifications here and there. But once you open up the app, it'll just refresh by itself. So now I switched to the iPhone XR. This next one is actually pretty important as well. What you want to do is you want to scroll down into general. you want to click hands off, and then what this basically does is if you go to another device on the same iCloud account, most of the times, it never really works for me, but most of the times you can go and pick up and do the same activity on the other device if you have handoff enabled on that. Now luckily I have it disabled on everything except for this device, so if that sounds appealing to you, if you want to keep that, go for it. But if you turn that off, it'll just save up a little bit more battery life, and I would really recommend it. Now this next thing is also within general. What you want to do is go into accessibility, and what this will basically do is we're just going to go ahead and reduce motion. So what this does is it reduces the motion of the user interface. So if I go ahead and enable it, you can see that you can do whatever it is, but you can see that it kind of just goes in and out. It doesn't really give you the animations anymore. So if you swipe up, it just kind of gives you, and I actually kind of like that low key. That actually looks a lot cleaner than, actually I might end up keeping that. That actually looks really cool. So yeah, you can do that if you have, let's say, like multiple apps open and you swipe out. You can still have the animations there, but you can just enable it, go into it, and it's actually a little bit faster. It just makes your device a little bit faster, and it also in a way saves battery life, but it also disables some other things too. That was actually really weird. Oh, I think I just found a glitch, guys. Hey, dude, I just found a glitch with iOS 12.1.2. How crazy is that? If you turn off reduce motion and then you swipe down on the status bar, you actually get that. I'm getting credit for that, by the way. So that's also another one you can do. Now this next thing is pretty trivial, you guys should know this, but turning off the brightness, not turning off the brightness, but just lowering the brightness by yourself usually saves battery life the most. I would say this is the number one thing that if you turned off, you could just end up saving the most battery life with, because most of the time the screen is the number one thing that sucks up the most power. So you can set it on automatic brightness. I really don't like doing that though. If you just go in and maneuver the brightness yourself, that's actually the number one thing you can do. Also, the auto lock, you can set it to whatever you want to, but the lower it is, most likely the less time the screen will be on, obviously. So I'd probably recommend that if you go in a lot of places and you accidentally leave your screen phone or the phone screen on, whatever, go ahead and just click auto lock and set that to 30 seconds. Or if you need to, let's say, I would not set it on never. That's pretty much pointless, but yeah, those are pretty good ones. Alright, I switched to the iPhone 8, and also while we're already in the display, another thing that kind of sucks up a little bit battery is raise to wake. Now I personally like that, I like that a lot, but for a lot of you guys, you might not like that. I actually turned it off on my iPhone 10 because I found it was just turning on the screen, and I would just, sometimes you're in class or something, you're just kind of wobbling your phone in your hand sometimes, and I would randomly do that, and I would always end up clicking random things, and I hated that. So I figured I would go ahead and just turn it off because I can still click the screen on the iPhone 10. But on these ones, on the iPhone 8, the SEs, the 6Ss, sometimes you are not able to just tap the screen. You actually have to click the home button. So in a case like this, I would probably recommend you to keep it. But if you're trying to save a lot of battery life, turning that off will only prolong your battery life. Now switching back to the iPhone 10, if you have a device with the OLED screen, such as the iPhone 10s, the 10s Max, even the iPhone 10, all these devices have OLED screens. So what that means is that pretty much all the dark pixels, the black pixels, such as, this one's a pretty bad example, but if you look at the camera app, that's a black pixel almost all together, even the voice memos. All those black pixels do not light up the screen, so the screen is pretty much turned off for those specific pixels. So having a dark wallpaper, even a darker wallpaper, will actually help prolong your device. And even if you have like apps that can support dark mode, I know Apollo is one of them. You can even kind of set up a dark mode on your device. Not really, it's kind of within through settings. I don't really like talking about it. But having any type of dark pixels on your screen will only prolong the battery life even more. So that's actually a really, really cool thing. And that's a humongous benefit of having an OLED screen. If you have a device like an iPhone 8 or an iPhone 10R, these devices do not have OLED screens. So it really doesn't matter what color pixel it is. You can have any wallpaper in it. But if you have a device like an iPhone 10, 10s, or 10s Max, having a darker wallpaper or darker pixels overall will only help better your battery life. Now I kind of mentioned this one earlier, and it's kind of going against what I kind of recommended earlier, but using widgets are cool, right? And I like them, but removing widgets will actually help increase battery life as well, because that means this thing won't have to constantly go in the background and keep refreshing what's going on. I think usually it doesn't even refresh until you actually go into it, but again, that's like one more thing that just sucks up battery life. So if you click here, you can remove whichever ones you don't use. Let's say you don't use any altogether, you can just remove all of them. I click just remove and then click done, and as you can see, the less ones you have here, pretty much the less things that's going to suck up battery life. Now if you go into settings and you click privacy and then location services, you will get into a tab that'll tell you about the location services. You can turn this on or off. Let's say you never use your location, just fully turn off your location services, because then it will just stop constantly looking in the background for your location and you don't even need to use it. But let's say you do need it on for sometimes, but you don't want these apps constantly looking for your background and your location and everything. You can actually go within the app settings and specifically turn each one off. So you can set it to while you're using the app. In some cases, it'll actually give you some more settings on which ones you can configure. But in a case like this, I'll give you an example with Google Maps. You can see always on while using the app or never. I always just keep it on because I use Google Maps all the time. But maybe you don't want to use Google Maps, maybe use something else. Just turning off the location for all these will save battery life even more. Now another big thing, if you go into settings and you click iTunes in the App Store, you'll get into a page like this. What you want to do with the automatic downloads, you just want to turn off everything. I want to turn off updates as well. Most likely all these things will be on, and the apps will pretty much update by themselves, and I don't really like that. I don't really know why you would even want that unless you're like a really, really, really old person or a really, really, really lazy person and you just don't want to mess with it at all. I'm not saying old people are lazy. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying either or, right? I don't want the old people getting at me now too. I already have the Germans against me. And pretty much just turning off as much as you want on these things will just help save battery life even more. And this is a pretty big one as well because the iTunes App Store is always in the background looking for things unless you turn these things off in the settings. And I'll end this off on the weakest note. If you go into battery and you click low power mode, this will actually help save battery life, as you guys know. This is a given, you guys should know this. But this will just kind of help prolong the battery life a little bit better. But there's actually something called ultra low power mode that's actually within Siri shortcuts. And I'd never used it, but basically a little explanation of it is that you can see that it turns on low power mode, it turns down the brightness, it sets the volume all the way low. I didn't even know the volume affected the battery life. It sets it to airplane mode, then turns off cellular data. It turns off the Bluetooth and it turns off the Wi-Fi. Or it turns on Wi-Fi, it turns off Bluetooth, something like that. So this is what ultra low power mode is. And I did not design this. I kind of wish I did because it's pretty sick. And you have to have Siri shortcuts to do this. And I'll leave a link to this one down in the description as well so you can download the profile. So you can go directly to that profile and download it. And this is only iOS 12 exclusive because older devices do not have Siri shortcuts. So this is a pretty big one too. And ultimately, if you follow these steps, your battery life will get exponentially better. I'm telling you guys. I've noticed my battery life on my iPhone 10 to be pretty bad compared to iOS 11, but I definitely think it's going to get better. I definitely think iOS 12.1.2 has gotten noticeably better as well. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much where I'm going to end it. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button. That don't mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber we get really does count, so it don't mean so much if you guys could hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those links are linked down below. I would really appreciate if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.